convince me it's going to be $1 billion company. I'm like, it's in my model. Like, that's more important to me. The unit economics make it work, but it's just, it's the approach. And I think the expectation of the investors is very different on both sides of the Atlantic. But here in London, I mean, I've walked away from potential investment from some people and some firms because I didn't believe that it was going to work, and that the relationship was not going to work. Just a couple of weeks ago, an investor sent me some questions on a Friday night at about 8 o'clock, and I got back to her by Sunday evening, and she said, "Why did it take you so long?" So I said, "Look, this is not going to work." And I think, as an entrepreneur, you're choosing to do this, and it's so important to choose who comes with you on this ride, because it's not easy and you need to be focused on the same things. And if that person is not going to be, or that firm or whoever it is on your board is not going to be supportive and understanding and just a human being, then it's just not going to work. So I think for me, it's always, the chemistry has to work, the relationship has to work, and I'm interviewing investors just as much as they're interviewing me. And I think that's really important to remember as an entrepreneur, is that you need to work together.
Partnership. Michelle, Ross, any particular?
Yeah, as we go into next year, we will be raising, so it's something that's on our mind at the moment, and I think kind of underlying to our business model is around creating a better working world. And I think from a mindful investor point of view, we need that back from our potential investor for the future. And I think to kind of pick up the point you just made around why didn't you reply quicker, I mean, for me, I wouldn't go anywhere near that person, because ultimately we need to work with a business that says it's okay to not be okay, because I still carry the baggage that I have, and I'm made to feel like it's baggage. So I need to go into an investor relationship where they are okay with that at a point I may have a breakdown, but also I don't carry the stereotypical resilience that's expected, I think, in the community of an entrepreneur. So I think a lot of the investment community has to move away from kind of the dynamic of intense pressure and resilience, and actually towards one of kind of vulnerability, empathy, and just stop being dicks. Like, I think, just be kind, and all of that experience will lead to far more human and profitable businesses.
Yeah, here. So I think we were pretty lucky when we took Liberty through that social investment round. We had been looking and considering it for about 2 years. Looking back, I wish we'd moved a little bit faster, because I think the whole team was beginning to be worn out, if I'm honest, by that stage, by 15 years into Liberty. But yeah, we had good chemistry, and it felt like we had shared values with our investors. So I had no complaints there. But one thing that does kind of still ring through my head is I remember, and this was before my breakdown and my burnout moment. There was quite a lot of change happening in the business. We'd closed the deal, we had the investor by that stage. And someone from the investment team said to me, "Michelle, Liberty is a very emotional business." Well, that just still to this day rings, and again, it was one of those moments where you kind of feel yourself responding to something and starting to shut down. Must be less emotional. Yeah, but for us, we're a purpose-led business. Young people are at the heart of our business. They were why we existed. Too right, we were emotional. It's good to be emotional, but suddenly to be told, really, to be sort of requested, could you not just not be so emotional? For me, is that evidence that what my experience of investors, there's so many kind of traditions and structures and frameworks and process, and this is how we are. and not being able to be your authentic human self, which, you know, it's probably that emotion for all different kinds of reasons that has driven that entrepreneur or that founder in the first place.
So I think it's just pulling on your point, because I've been given the 5 minute sign. Bye-bye. I just want to pull a few ideas together, because I think that it's getting that balance, absolutely, which when I speak to members who've taken on investment or are thinking about taking on investment, and there's this whole idea of money plus. It's not just the cash you're after. You're looking for support, whether that be contacts, bringing in the governance, bringing in other stuff that the benefit of other investors can bring into your business. And I think obviously from an investor's point of view, if they're different maybe from an angel, but maybe if they've got funds, they've also got responsibility to their customers on the other end, which is bringing ROI, sort of bringing what's the word I'm looking for? I've completely lost my mind. Returns. There we go. Returns back on those investments. It's kind of keep that balance of finding the right partner, because yes, there is the investment is that I've put X in, I need to get X out for the other end, and then balancing from the entrepreneur who knows the business best and is probably the best place to scale it, and giving them the right support at the right time. So my last question to all of you, and maybe I'll start with you, Gina, is when it comes to an investor and you're working with them, what's the best way that they can support you, either through the day-to-day stresses and ups and downs, versus something, Ross, and I'll come to you, of what you'd be looking for an investor to support you if a pivotal moment happens or these life things come at you. So could you maybe sort of if you've got something in your head, and then jump in, the rest of you guys, to finish off, what would you ask the investment community if one thing they could do to help support you?
For me, it would be communication. I think you need to have that constant dialogue with your investor. And it's not about reporting back to them. It's about just having a genuine conversation with them, how the business is going, how are they, how am I? Because that's what's going to change the relationship, and then they're going to understand you more as your business. And maybe you will understand more about what they want to get out of it and the types of returns they need. So yeah, I'd say communication.
Yeah, I agree, it's communication, but I think it's a two-way street, so it's really important for entrepreneurs to be open and honest as well. And if you start that off as the way that your relationship is, so for example, I send monthly emails to all my investors, tell them what's going on, the ups and downs, I'm pretty candid about what's happening, and then when I do need something, they know. And then, you know, that relationship is there. And I WhatsApp them, I call them, and they love it because they feel included and they feel like they're helping me, even if they're not. And it's a one-way street. But it's not only up to the investors. And my investors are great, super supportive. You know, they're there when I need them, and I think it's definitely one of the things is definitely down to me being open and honest with them as well, and respecting their time.
Thanks. Final two.
I think for me it's about reframing the conversation, because what I experienced led to quite extreme mental illness. But actually I think where the conversation needs to be in the investment community is around mental fitness, as you said, because there is enough data out there now and enough research to show that businesses that approach this in the right way are more profitable and will get a greater return for the investment community. But the mindset and the stigmas have to completely change in this world. You know, our business, for example, our employees have a mental health coach that comes in and they book that time on their app in the same way they do their gym class. But for me, that's quite radical at the moment when you look at the investment community, and the whole conversation has to change, and that mindset around weakness versus strength, and that's what I kind of implore people to start thinking about.
Thank you.
I'd echo all of those excellent points. And maybe the thing that I would just kind of leave us to think about is, as well as everyone, all of us being on that continuum of mental health, we all also, every single one of us has a snapping point, and you don't know when it might happen to you. So if, you know, and that's investors as well. So founders, investors, our teams, everybody has a snapping point. So, you know, let's take that conversation and let it be more open and honest as human beings, being kind to each other. And also let's absolutely root it in business benefits, because there are plenty of business benefits to come out of being more open with this conversation. I'm absolutely sure.
Great, thank you so much, and thank you so much for sharing all your stories. Really much appreciated. Can I have a round of applause?